Hey, what's up guys? Today we got in a Krytac M4, and the goal with this guy is to hit 1.5 joules on 0.40 gram BBs without any joule drop off and a quick trigger response. So in this video, we'll go over the parts that we're going to put in this thing. Then we'll do a baseline chrono, tips and tricks during the build. Then we'll chrono the results and compare to the baseline chrono results. And at the very end, I'm going to share my final thoughts and any issues that I ran into during the build. So with that being said, let's get into it.
Alrighty then.
And here we are. Okay, we're going to go from left to right, and I'm going to explain what we're putting in this Krytac, and I'll tell you why. For starters, we're going to go with the JeffTron Leviathan version 2 optical wire to the stock. With the JeffTron, we're also going to be using the hair trigger mod speed trigger. This will allow very little trigger travel when it comes to actually shooting an airsoft gun. So we'll be putting that in there. The gears that we're going to be running in this is the Rocket 18-1 gear set, the sector gear, and the bevel. And if you notice, I don't have the spur gear, and there's a reason why for that. Don't need to swap out the spur gear, because if you use the spur gear from the gear set, the way that they made these spur gears is a little bit too tall specifically for the Krytac gearbox. So we won't be needing to use this. Not only that, but the Krytac spur gear is pretty damn strong in and itself. Additionally, with the Krytac spur gear, it meshes really well with the Rocket gear set anyway. What ends up happening with the Rocket spur gear is that when you go to close the gearbox, there's no room to shim whatsoever. And matter of fact, when you screw down the gearbox as if it was together, this gear will bind up simply because it's just too wide. We'll be putting a delayer chip from SHS on the sector gear, and then we're going to trim it on the pickup side from this corner to that corner to avoid Tappet plate PME and to allow those heavy 0.4 gram BBs into the chamber. A lot of people don't know this, but when you use 0.4 gram BBs in M4 magazines especially, you need more spring power to push that heavy BB into the chamber, especially if it cycles fast. Modifying and using that delayer chip on the sector gear is going to help with that tremendously. Done it enough times that, believe me, it helps with feeling so much, and it allows you to use other mags that have a weaker spring. Anyways, for a piston, we're going to use the Begadi piston. It's very much like the Retro Arms piston, but the difference is that it's slightly different. I'm willing to bet that Retro Arms made these gears for the Begadi company. If you've never heard of these guys, they're located in Germany, and I do have these exact pistons in stock, and I use these for DSG builds and DMRs all the time to handle a lot of stress. And not only that, but the rack is very strong, and you don't even have to glue it because it's in there really tight. Never had to glue the racks in these ever. And then we're going to use the EPeS POM piston head. This thing has two O-rings, one to keep the piston head nice and centered with the cylinder, and then of course you got your sealing O-ring right here, and you got your ball bearings. I love using these piston heads because they help minimize the amount of noise that the piston slap makes on each cycle. That being said, the cylinder head of choice, we're using this SHS Gen 2 aluminum cylinder head with this 30-degree pad here, which is going to take a lot of that hit from that piston being released by the sector gear, which should also help it run quieter. Additionally, has a lot of extra metal for the nozzle here, so it's going to make it more durable. And the nozzle to pair it with, we're going to use the EPeS 21 flat millimeter nozzle, and I'll tell you why we're going with that length in a little bit. But anyways, when it's on the cylinder head, in the all the way forward position as if it was getting ready to shoot, very little wobble. That very little bit of wobble is going to assist in FPS consistency, which then is going to make this airsoft gun very accurate. This is just a opinion from SHS that works with those rocket gears really well. It helps with mesh, makes it run quieter in terms of gear noise. And so now the reason why we're using a 21 millimeter nozzle specifically is because we plan on using the MAXX M4a. When you get these hop-ups and you decide to put them in your M4, right in the manual it says that you have to use a shorter nozzle, either a 21 millimeter flat or a 21.25. I just go with 21 millimeter flat mainly because I use very firm tappet plates. So I find that the Gate Eon tappet plate works the best in these Krytac, mainly because it's very firm and still flexible. And that firmness gives the rigidity that it needs to have that consistent FPS on 0.40 gram BBs. Not only that, but it's very strong. With the Hopup, I do plan on changing out this piece right here, the TDC nub that comes down with this type that allows you to put a whatever nub you want in the Hopup. We're going to use the Maple Leaf Omega nub Hopup tensioner because it has that perfect curvature and it works perfectly and sits nice and tight in between these two lugs on this piece right here. Then gives you more consistency in your hop. And for the bucking, we're going to pair it with the Maple Leaf Super MACARON 60 degree because we're only doing 1.5 joules. On top of that, MAXX actually made their Hopups more compatible with Maple Leaf buckings more than any other bucking out there on the market. It even says so on their manual. Then for the motor to drive everything in this setup, we're going to use the T238 brushless motor. I'll leave a card up here in the corner in case you want to learn more about this brushless motor. In my opinion, I think this is going to be the best choice. We're using the 33K specifically because we don't want this thing cycling too fast, and we're going to use pre-cocking anyways to get that more trigger and quick trigger response. So that being said, since we're running 18-1 and a 33K motor, the amperage pull is going to be very, very low. And T238s, as far as I'm aware, so I've tested other brushless motors and other setups, these have by far the best trigger response I've ever experienced. Not only that, but they also have a adjustable RPM, so you can change your rate of fire right off the motor. It's great for builds that require an inline MOSFET and you need to absolutely change your rate of fire, just for example, meeting field regulations. And in the barrel that we're going to put in it, nothing too fancy, just kind of in between the quality and the best you can possibly get. A 363 millimeter barrel. Why is it so short? With a full cylinder and 0.40 gram BBs, we do need a shorter barrel than what's typically in your M4 platforms. This one's a 6.03. This should help keep the joule drop from happening, but I'm going to do some measurements and air volume ratio to make sure that this thing is going to not push too much air, just enough for 4.0s to maximize accuracy. And if you notice, we got this buffer tube here. This is a Krytac buffer tube, and the reason why we have it here is because the one that's broken on the Krytac replica, it's busted. Sits like this. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the threads right here are broken, and to my understanding, the customer, the owner of this Krytac, fell on his gun and messed it up, so we're going to try and fix it. As far as parts go, that's what we're going to go for now. If we end up changing anything, I'll let you guys know later in the video. So with all this out of the way, let's get our baseline chrono and see what she gets. Okay, so the BBs that we're going to test with today are going to be HPA biodegradable 4.0 gram BBs. I'm going to be using the original magazine that come with these Krytacs to run this, and then we're using a Boz LiPo 11.1 25C 1100 milliamp hour LiPo battery to do our tests. So I went ahead and did 2.0 gram BBs, and this is how many joules we're getting. And the reason why we're getting a baseline real quick for our 2.0 gram BBs is to see how many joules we lose by going to 4.0s, and then I'm going to write that number down up here. And we'll see what she gets. Let's see how bad it drops. Alrighty, got the chrono set to 4.0 gram BBs. I'm gonna do 10 shots and we'll see how many joules it drops off. So we started at 1.32 on 2.0s. Let's see where it goes. Oh yeah, we lost some joules, all right. Look at that, 107 from 1.32s. So we got some air volume ratio balancing to do so that we can get this gun set right for 4.0s. All right, let's go to the bench.
2 hours later.
All right, got the gearbox out and the part, and now I'm going to do my magic trick. On the count of 3, I'm going to snap my fingers, and we're going to have all the upgrades put in this gearbox. 1, 2, 3. What the? Whoops. Sorry, guys. Let me try that one more time. 1, 2, 3. Ta-da! All the parts are in. So that was just for funsies. Just to let you guys know, I ended up having to change out the cylinder head to a Tienly, if that's pronounced right. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but whatever. Version 2 cylinder head. And Fits so much better. Nozzle barely moves. I had to modify the gate Eon Tappet plate so that it doesn't get pinched by the gearbox, as it was getting pinched right here. I put a much stronger Tappet plate spring right here so that that nozzle gets pressed really hard into that bucking, so it makes a really good seal to help with that EPeS consistency. Other than that, everything else went together just fine. JeffTron Leviathan's in. Everything else is in. It just went together real smooth, so I'm going to get this the rest of the way together, and we'll see if we shoot 1.5 joules on 0.4s. Keep in mind that I haven't changed the spring, so by doing the air volume ratio correctly, we should hit that 1.5 joules. From the baseline chrono, we got 1.07 joules, and I'm hoping to see closer to 1.5 joules, considering the fact that we now have a full cylinder and a slightly shorter barrel. So that should get us to where we need to go. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and throw it together, and I'll see you at the chrono.
5 minutes later.
Okay, so we're going to test with 2 O's first, and that's what's in this mag. In this mag, we got the HPA 4 O's. And when I did the baseline, I got 1.32 joules on 2 gram BBs. Baseline, we got 1.07, and the goal is to shoot the same joules as we do with 0.2s when we go to 0.4s, because of the air volume ratio that we did with the cylinder to the barrel. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and throw the 0.2 gram BBs in the M4 and show you guys what it gets. Okay, we're at the chrono. I'm going to do 10 shots, and you're going to see the joules right there. Here we go. Yeah, 1.46 joules. Not bad. And that was with 0.2s. So now I'm going to throw in the magazine with the 0.4s, and we should get the same amount. Alright, moment of truth, guys. Got the 0.4s in the mag using HPA BBs. Here we go, 10 shots. 1.46 joules. That means the joules went up slightly higher going to 0.4s, and that means that this thing will definitely shoot further with 0.4s. Despite the EPeS being at 280, yes, that's pretty slow, but you got to keep in mind that's 0.4s. But anyways, with air volume ratio set right for 0.4s, like last time, it shot almost right at 1 joules, which means it lost power going to 0.4s. So that's why it's important to make sure you get your air volume ratio set right if you're going to use something that heavy. Otherwise, you just get diminished returns. So now that this guy is set for 0.4s, this thing's going to shoot ridiculously far with. So anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video and you got some value out of it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe so that you don't miss future videos on more insight to airsoft tech. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.